Well, hello again and welcome to another episode of the Hyperion Adventures Podcast. I'm Tom. As always, I'm with my gorgeous, wonderful, extremely hard-working, super smart, Disney sports loving wife and co-host Michelle.
Well, thank you so much, sweetie. Hi, everybody.
So good to have you with us. We were recording this episode on Sunday, January 31st, 2021, the very last day of January. We're moving into a brand new month, probably by the time many of you actually listen to this episode.
Right. Wow. Exciting. This month just kind of flew by.
Yeah. The most exciting thing is that the month we're about to move into is the month where we're going to have a wonderful little trip out to a little Disney place out on the East Coast that we are extremely excited about. And we've been planning a lot of things for months now, but especially it's ramping up over the last couple of weeks.
Right. And definitely looking forward to that. Looking forward to seeing some family too. So it's going to be a great time.
Yep. Family. Of course, when we're talking about family, we're talking about Disney. It's, with Mickey, Minnie, Goofy, the whole entire family. Now we have some of Michelle's family we're planning on seeing as well, but mostly we're just looking to have some time, get some Disney fun again. It's been a long time since we've had any, we always have Disney fun. I mean, this show, we consider Disney fun, but I mean, visit to the park, Disney cruise, anything like that, Disney fun. It's been a long time.
Yes. And so you're totally right. Looking forward to that and anxiously awaiting getting to the parks.
Yes, we are very much. And we'll be talking a little bit more about that next week because we have some, because that'll be leading up to the vacation. So we'll want to talk a little bit more about that. But today we want to move on and talk about today's topic. But first we want to let you know that you can find our podcast most everywhere you can get podcasts. However, the very best place to find us is on our own website, HyperionAdventuresPodcast.com. And while you're there,
you can sign up for our newsletter.
Yes, and if you had signed up for the newsletter last week, you were the first to find out a little tidbit we dropped this week. You were the first to see our brand new logo for hashtag Real Men Love Frozen that we created now on our Spreadshirt shop, easy for me to say, where you can find all sorts of merchandise. Yes, of course, t-shirts, Spreadshirt shop, but there's all sorts of like mugs and water bottles and hats and all sorts of stuff that if you want to express your love like I have, and Michelle has, even though she's not a real man, if you want to show your love for hashtag Real Men Love Frozen, it's a great way to do it.
Right. And it was a great logo. You did an awesome job. Love it.
Thank you. So please go check that out. Also, another way you can be in touch with us is through our social media. After we put it out on our newsletter, we did later put it out on social media. And if you ever want to see what we have going on out there, you can find us on Twitter at Hyperion Podcast, Facebook, Instagram, and Pinterest at Hyperion Adventures Podcast. We do have a YouTube channel. Hopefully you're checking out some of these episodes on YouTube because we enhance them a little bit with some photo. One, you can see us and see how lovely Michelle is. And she's wearing, by the way, one of our newer logo gear t-shirts today. You'll be able to see that on our YouTube video of this episode. But it's just kind of a fun way. We have pictures out there of some of the stuff we're talking about. So just kind of enhances the podcast in other ways.
Yeah, you do a great job when you put in those images to help really, solidify some of the things that we're describing may not always be easy enough to just use words to describe. So it's awesome that you put those pictures in as well.
Thank you. It's a lot of fun and just another way to be more involved with the show. And if you ever want to find us on YouTube, just do a search for Hyperion Adventures Podcast, hit subscribe, and you'll know whenever we have a new video. And if you ever want to contact us for any reason, you can always hit us up at our Gmail account, HyperionAdventuresPodcast@gmail.com.
That's right. We love hearing from you and we enjoy the interaction. If you ever have any questions for us, let us know.
Yes, absolutely. Even if you just want to say hi, we love hearing from all of you out there. Hit us up at our Gmail account and tell us whatever you want. If you want to say hi, you want to see if we're going to be at the parks at the same time you are, or if you want to have input in some of our, our different episodes, we'd love to hear. Even if you want to suggest a topic, we always love that very much. So I want to talk a little bit before we get into some of our main episode today about some more stuff on Disney Plus. And of course, we have to start, as we have for the last several weeks, with WandaVision,
Right.
because once again, and again, we're not going to give any spoilers, but episode 4 completely ramped it up to an entirely different level
Right.
and what's going on with this show. And there's just so many cool things and cool characters and intriguing storyline that's involved with this show, and we are just completely locked into it, right, Michelle?
Oh, definitely. And you're right. It really did ramp up. I think it was good timing. I think, when you look at some of the comments on social media, some of the people who were trying to get into it didn't see much a storyline to it, and were kind of like anxiously awaiting some more information. If you watch the first several episodes, there's a lot of great Easter eggs. There's a lot of great mystery to it, even though it has some kind of funny little parts to it. You do get kind of an air of foreboding. Something is amiss. And
very much so.
Right.
Very much so.
So it is intriguing, but it was nice this last episode that you really started to get a little bit better understanding of kind of what's going on, maybe a little bit.
Yeah, and actually, there's a lot of things that happened in the first 3 episodes that kind of get tied together with episode 4, and we're just going. I think we're going to steamroll through the next several episodes from here, because it's really going to start moving. Now, if you were worried about it, maybe you watched the first episode or 2, thought it was moving a little slowly for you. Make your way through it, get to episode 4, because I believe it's really going to pick up from here. And I've mentioned this before in other shows, I really think this is going to be the major building block as to what's coming from the Marvel Cinematic Universe near in the future. And I put something out there interesting on Twitter. Now, I'm not going to give it away here, but just a little theory I have of a certain character that could possibly show up later on in the show that it just struck me as like, this is a serious possibility. Now, I'm not going to give any spoilers away as to what happened in episode 4, but if you want to find that, go search our Twitter account and check that out, because it was I don't know. And again, it's just a speculative thing, but I thought it's very plausible that this could happen in the future.
When you mentioned it, it made sense for sure. So.
Yeah. So WandaVision, great. Again, still hooked into it. Love it so much. Love it more now and we loved it before. We love it now more now than ever, and just can't wait till the next episode comes out here next Friday. Now, another thing we watched, and it wasn't the first time we watched it. It was the second or third time that we've watched it, but I think we both agreed that I'm watching it a second or third time, we've enjoyed it even more, and that's Soul. Watched it the first time, really loved it. As a matter of fact, we tweeted out there that this could be not only the winner of the Best Animation Academy Award this year for a film. I suggested that maybe it could even be a Best Picture nominee. And some of that kind of played out this week in that it was named to the AFI Top 10 Films of the Year. So, that you want to lead into that, that's a possibility. But I think watching it again, really, because the first time we saw it, I was enjoying it, just taking it all in, loving the music, loving some of the wonderful animation, especially in, New York City and all around there. But seeing some more of the details, some more key plot line, details that were through it, just really enhanced it that much more for me. I don't know about you, Michelle.
Oh, definitely. You could see, you could better appreciate some of the relationships, because you kind of already had an idea how they intermingled when it was first rolling out. It's like, how are they getting along? Are they getting along? And so it really did, watching it a second time, you got to appreciate it a little bit more.
And I just, I think I took more to heart near the end, the simple message that it really had at the end that, hey, obviously life is one great thing, but it's also those little moments in life, and finding them. And especially, I think that's important right now is, it can be tough, if you look at the overall encompassing things that's going on, of course, in our country, but in the world, and take whatever portion of what's going on as part of that right now. But if you take those little moments of joy and, and look at them and really appreciate them, it just enhances your life so much more.
Right. And the message of living each day to the fullest and, appreciating things throughout the day. And like you said, I mean, with everything that's going on, you might feel like you have a purpose, a direction, and things keep changing, and you have to keep kind of swiveling a different way sometimes. And so this was a really, like you said, timely message to say, just take the moments to reflect on what is good happening and enjoy those things. So.
Exactly. Find those great moments because they're all around you every day. I'm not saying every day is a great day and we all have bad days, but there's little pieces of joy that you can find that you can celebrate that will help bring you up. Disney's a big part of that.
Right.
You know, I think that's it. That's part of why we do this podcast. This podcast is one of those highlights of all of our weeks. Every week.
Yeah.
So.
It's fun doing it with you.
Oh, I can't tell you how fun it is doing this show with you, honey.
You're sweet.
It's just been a wonderful, more than 2.5 years of doing it with you. It's the bright spot of my week for sure.
Mine too.
So let's get to that bright spot of our week. We have lots of stuff for you today, including if you think that Disneyland Annual Pass you had when the parks closed is now useless, well, we have some somewhat good news for you. We'll talk a little bit about that. If you're looking for a way to jazz up your next Walt Disney World trip with jazz hands. More than jazz. It's jazz, not jazz hands. A little bit different, but I gotcha. If you're looking to jazz up your next Walt Disney World trip, we have some cool information for you. And Disney announces the reimagining of a classic attraction. But let's get to our main topic of the week. So with the super game that's coming up this week that we may enjoy a big bowl of chips while watching, we thought to kind of lead up to this week as we're getting ready for that game and featuring a team that is not that far from actually the Walt Disney World Resort where they play their games, and actually that's where the big game is happening, is not that far from the Walt Disney World Resort. We thought we'd kind of look at some of the things that Disney has done involving sports. I mean, they've been really entrenched within the sports universe for quite a long time. Of course, there's great shorts, animated shorts. There are some really wonderful and heartwarming, based on a true story, sports films, and so we kind of thought we'd go through that, and we're going to give kind of our 5 favorite list of some of those that we really enjoy very much. But before we do that, I wanted to go through just a small piece of Disney sports history. I mean, there's a lot out there, and I don't do Michelle's type of research. I mean, I really don't, but I did look up in a few things that, kind of ties Disney in with sports, and I kind of wanted to go through a few things that they've done more recently that, and how they've become much more entrenched within the sports world within the last several decades. So I'm going to start with, tying in with that game, with the Super Bowl that's coming up here. Disney became famous for, having one of the game's best players, often the game MVP, saying, I'm going to Disneyland or I'm going to Disney World. That started back in 1987 at that was the Super Bowl between the New York Giants and I want to say it was the Denver Broncos. I'm trying to remember who they played. I just know it was the New York Giants. I was actually at that game, by the way. Wow. Lucky. I was blessed enough to be able to be to that game. That was at the Rose Bowl in Pasadena out here in Southern California at the time. So Phil Simms was the one who was the first to ever say it, and they've had it ever since. Like I said, it's usually the MVP. Sometimes it's another player who does really well within the game, but it was, you just won the Super Bowl. What are you going to do? I'm going to Disneyland. I'm going to Disney World. And then, more recently, they would often, fly that person out there and they'd have a parade and celebrate them at the parks.
Yeah. I mean, somebody actually did say that to, I think it was Michael Eisner. But I think it was, if I remember correctly, and I didn't do the research. I wasn't aware we were going to do this, and I love it. But I believe I remember hearing it was actually Michael Eisner's wife who said this would be a good thing to do.
Yeah, I think that's right. I didn't look into the complete details of it, but I think that's correct.
And so I think she was the one that gave that idea to carry that on year after year.
Right. So that was one of the biggest And most noteworthy, especially into the football world, the way Disney kind of entrenched themselves within it. But they've also owned a couple of professional teams in other sports as well. In 1992, they acquired the rights to the NHL expansion franchise. They began play in 1993 as the Mighty Ducks of Anaheim, based, of course, on the film franchise. Right. And they owned that team until 2005. And then later, the person that bought them renamed them just the Ducks. They cut out the Mighty part of it. And they ended up going on to win a Stanley Cup.
Right.
In 1997, they purchased the then California Angels, also in Anaheim as well. Renamed them the Anaheim Angels, as a matter of fact. They renovated Anaheim Stadium, which, if you know anything about Southern California, Orange County, that stadium it used to be more of a baseball park, and then they built it up into a multi-use stadium, one of those big giant bowl stadiums, because that's when they had the LA, they were still the LA Rams there, even though they played at Anaheim at that point. And then the Rams moved to St. Louis. And so it was just the Angels playing in this giant, ugly stadium. So the Disney company put money into it, got a sponsor, and they shrunk it down, made it a little more intimate. They added that big rock pile out there that you can kind of see out in center field to this day that really is reminiscent of like Big Thunder Mountain and Frontierland. There's a reason for that. That's because Disney built it. And so it really, it looks great. Been there since they've renovated. I actually love that ballpark. It's no Petco Park out here in San Diego, but it is a really good ballpark. I was there. I visited many times when it was the smaller Big A, when it was the original baseball stadium for just the Angels. When it got giant, I went there for Angel games, as well as to go, I went and saw a Grateful Dead show there, Dylan and the Dead out there. And then back again when they shrunk it back down, Disney took it and was much more fun to go see it when it was like that for baseball. But so while Disney owned the Angels, the Angels actually won their first American League pennant and won their first World Series back in 2002. Disney owned them until 2005, and then they sold them, and they've gone through a couple other name changes since then. Also in 1997, Disney opened Disney's Wide World of Sports complex at the Walt Disney World Resort, kept that name until 2010, and it was changed to the ESPN Wide World of Sports complex as we know it now. And that's hosted, so many high school, Pop Warner, college tournaments, and all sorts of things out there. There was the Atlanta Braves spring training location from 1997 up until just recently, 2019. More recently, they've had the Pro Bowl skills competition out there. Of course, just this year, they had the NBA bubble, which was very successful to finish out the NBA season through the playoffs, crowned a champion. They had the MLS's Back tournament out there as well. And in 2022, they're set to host the Special Olympics USA Games. So that's something to look forward to as well. So, just a few touches of things that Disney has done over the years, sports related. There's so many more things, but just a few fun facts. Of course, they purchased ABC and ESPN kind of at the same time when they acquired Capital Cities ABC Inc. in 1996. So, that gave them ABC Television. They gave them ESPN, which was, it's a sports and entertainment network. So they've aired Super Bowls, they've aired college football championships, they've aired lots of different basketball, college basketball, just so much sports. Disney is well tied in with the sports world. Right, definitely. And that purchase also got them Bob Iger. That's very true. That's a good point. Michelle, that's the best points. So anyway, but I think one of the things we really love about Disney, and obviously there's all these great things they're tied in sports wise, but is a lot of their films. Disney is known, especially. Obviously there's the animated shorts that are so great that we love, but they're so. When you hear about a heartwarming, based on a true story sports movie, almost inevitably it's Disney that's putting those things out. Some of the best of them, some of the ones we love so much. So we thought we'd kind of go through some of these things and discuss the ones that are our 5 favorite. Yeah, it's a fun topic. I try to be more with football because it's more representative of the big game coming up, but
like you said, there's such variety of stories out there that I just couldn't leave it exclusive to that.
Yeah, well, that's great. Well, Michelle's list, it's always going to be the best list. So, that's why we always start these lists with going to Michelle. My list is a little all over it's pretty standard. I don't think there's any really real curveballs in my list. But I think I hit a lot.
You using a sports term.
That's right. I'd like to say that was intentional, but it was not at all. But I did, where was I? You threw me on a curveball there.
Your list, you said it was kind of classic.
That was a swing and a miss right there. Anyway, my list was kind of all over the place, but I wanted to hit various different sports on mine because I like a lot of various different sports, and I like a lot of various different sports movies. But again, Michelle's list will be the best list. So let's get to her number 5 favorite Disney sports movie or, short, whatever you want to call it. Yeah.
All right. So my number 5 is one that we recently watched on Disney Plus, which is Safety. Thought that was, a nice movie. It's based on, it's one of those based on a true story. And, some parts of it might have been a little predictable, but definitely one that, I don't know about you, I'm sure, but I got choked up during certain scenes of it, and I just love, again, how we've talked about this in the past, how Disney really emphasizes relationships and family and the importance of family and struggles that sometimes result as a part of that, but it's still an important area that you need to focus on. So definitely would highly recommend that football film.
Yeah, definitely go check that out. It's all about a Clemson player who, we're not going to get into the entire storyline, but essentially there was something that happened in his family, and even though he was this very good college football player, there is some extra weight added to his shoulders that he'd had to take on as he worked his way through this. It's a really good film. Really enjoyed it, and it is on Disney Plus. Came out just it was near the beginning of the year. I don't know exactly when it was, but definitely it's there. Easy to find. Check it out. It's very good.
Yeah, so that's my number 5.
I like it. Well, Michelle's number 5. Always the best number 5.
I was almost thinking it was going to be on your list too.
Yeah, it wasn't on my. It would have been an honorable mention on my list, but it wasn't on my list.
All right, your number 5.
My number 5, I'm going to the world of horse racing, and this is a movie I was glad to see when actually Disney Plus debuted more than a year ago. It was right on there immediately, and that is Secretariat. I love this film. I think it's a great movie. It's another, one of the many things that, these Disney based on a true story films are they're based on underdog stories. And that's kind of what happened with this. Secretariat, was kind of an underdog, but went on to become arguably the greatest horse ever to run out there. I mean, he blew away. He still holds so many records at tracks, Triple Crown winner. And the story is just interesting because, if you don't know the story of Secretariat, and of course, just like any of these based on true stories, there are some, dramatic, hedging that they do with them, to kind of fudge it all the way and make it, that much better. But the story is that this woman, she lives in Colorado, her family and her parents, they bred horses, trained horses, bred horses out, and her mother passes away, and her father is going through dementia at the time, even though he's been a long time person in the horse industry. And so the question came up, are we going to have to, get rid of this stable?
Right.
And so she moves into this, and helps Secretariat. Secretariat comes to them in a way. I'm not going to give away the entire story because you might want to check it out. And helps move the plot along. And it's interesting because she kind of takes the reins of this thing. Pun unintended there. And is a woman in a very male-dominated world. And that comes to play a big part in this story as well. It's really good. I totally enjoy it. It's dramatic. I think some of the horse racing shots are spectacular. Highly recommend you go check out Secretariat.
Yeah, that is a great movie. That would have been on my honorable mentions for sure. Like you said, it does really emphasized the underdog can prevail, not just in the underdog and the horse, but there were, like you said, her working her way through a male-dominated profession, issues with the jockey also being kind of an underdog there, and issues related to his performance.
Well, the trainer too. I mean, there were interesting things with the trainer they bring in for Secretariat. So.
Exactly. So it's one of those stories, kind of like real life when a lot of things. Whoa. Sorry, Mickey. Football Mickey. When a lot of things happen and it's something I say a lot. Maybe it's ridiculous, but I use a lot at work. It's like, if a story was being written right now about this, people wouldn't believe it because there's just so many crazy things happening. And that's what I see in that movie. It's like, you couldn't imagine how many struggles and challenges were put to test for this film and how successful everyone was in it.
So definitely check it out if you haven't seen it, or if you haven't seen it in a long time, I would suggest revisiting it. So that's my number 5. Let's get to Michelle's number 4 favorite Disney sports movie or short.
Our titles are really complex,
That's not the actual title of the episode. But,
okay. So mine is my number 4 is not based on a true story, but it's a sports story, and it's Cars. And at first I thought it'd be silly to put this one on. It did come to mind, but then I thought, no, they really do capture a lot of the essence of race car, industry, and having gone to a couple actual NASCAR races, they really do pull through the essence of what's going on the track with all the fans, the level of commitment fans have to the sport, and they brought in true sportscasters, and actual race car drivers to do some of the voices. So I thought, it really does fit the essence of it, and who doesn't love that movie?
Yeah. Well, I mean, for some people, it's not their favorite of the Pixar movies, and that's fine, to each his own. But we enjoyed it mostly because our son really enjoys that series. Cars 2. But Cars 1, and especially the first Cars, and then Cars 3 are very good movies, and totally enjoyable. They're fun. And yes, there's a lot of racing aspects that are taken into it, and some really good work, animation wise, to capture those race parts of it. It definitely is a sports movie. I totally get it. So
thank you.
Nice choice. Michelle's number 4.
Well, thank you.
Number 4.
And now we're to your number 4.
My number 4 is going to a different sport again. And once again, but this one is not based on a true story. This is based on a traditional movie trope of the underdog, the ragtag group of underdogs, and that's the Mighty Ducks. I really love that film and the entire franchise of the Mighty Ducks, and it's just fun. This group of kids. It's a standard trope. There's many movies that have done the same thing, going back to the Bad News Bears and earlier, but this is the Bad News Bears with hockey. But it's just good fun film, and just everything about it. Emilio Estevez has to retouch his childhood. He fell out of love with hockey, go back and try and fall in love with it again, get these kids together from all different lifestyles that, have struggled in the past, pull them together to form this team, this ragtag team, into a group that does really, really well. And it's just a good time more than anything else. It's funny. There's some great sports moments in there and some great heartwarming moments in there as well. Look, it's great. People love that film. They've talked about it for decades now. It inspired more films, and including it, there's a new series coming to Disney Plus soon as well. That's going to be all about the new version of the Mighty Ducks. And of course, as I mentioned earlier, there was an actual NHL team called the Mighty Ducks, and still the Ducks to this day. So that's enough. That right there is enough to make it my number 4. Favorite Disney sports movie and or short.
Yeah, that's a great choice. And you're right. I think we rewatched it, about a month and a half ago or
Yeah,
2 months ago.
about 2 months ago, I think.
Yeah. And I'd forgotten how endearing it was. So it is a fun movie to watch, especially like on a rainy day or something. Just hunker down and enjoy that.
Yeah,
that
it's
film.
just a good time.
Right.
It's just a good time watching the kids play hockey, mess around, have some fun, struggle,
Right.
rally. There's some sad moments, happy moments. It's just a good time.
Yeah.
So
Agreed.
that's my number 4. Let's get to Michelle's number 3 favorite Disney sports movie and or short.
Okay, well, so my number 3 is back to based on a true story. I would suspect this is probably going to be on your list, but it's one that is just, I think, phenomenal. I thought about putting it higher, but there was other competition. So Remember the Titans. That is just such a powerful film. There are times that it's hard to watch. I mean, looking at some of the issues of prejudices and,
Stuff that's still in play today, unfortunately.
Yes, right,
Yes,
exactly. And, and it does play an important role in the film, but it's not the only message that comes through. And, just seeing how people can, working towards the same effort, can overlook some things and come together. How people rally against not just the underdog issue, but somebody who's having real challenges in their lives or struggles and pulling together to help support. It's one of those films of being carried on somebody's shoulders if needed. And I just think it's one of the most powerful films, let alone sports films, that I've ever seen.
Great film. As a matter of fact, it's my number 2. Ask me, 5 minutes from now, it could be my number 1 or it could be my 1B or whatever. It's a great film. It's really, really done well. Denzel Washington playing Coach Herman Boone. He's so good in that role. And it's just, the story, if you don't know it, and you should watch this film because it's really great, is about they bring together, Black and white students integrating this high school. They decide to integrate this high school in Alexandria, Virginia in 1971. And, to kind of make this help happen, they decide to make this Coach Boone the head coach, essentially, in place of another guy who was in line to end up being that coach, a white guy. They end up, despite his animosity about not getting the coaching job, he brings him on as his defensive coordinator. Or maybe he's offensive coordinator. I have to look back at the film and recall. But they go back and they form this team. They work together, and it's all about, finding the things that make us more alike rather than the things that separate us, that makes us feel like we're different. And also, while also celebrating each other's culture and appreciating that and listening to it. And it's just a really well told story about appreciating the others around you and, and empathizing with them and understanding what they're going through and working together for a common goal.
Right, exactly. Yeah. And the characters are so engaging. I mean, they are just, they're the characters you just really want to see what's going to happen next, how they work together, how they interrelate together. It's phenomenal.
Yeah. Great film. Love it very much. We may watch it again today, as a matter of fact, because it's so good. So great film. So that's Michelle's number 3.
So now
my
number 3.
number 2. So let's get to my number 3, which really is a 3. A, B, C, D, E, F, G, H, I, J, K, L, M, N, P. It's all the goofy how-to shorts and all the different ones that he did, based like The Art of Skiing and all those that some were sports related, because they're all hilarious.
Yes.
Yet they capture the essence of a lot of these and some of the silliness of many of these games, and especially to someone like, if you don't know anything about football and you turn on football, it kind of looks like that to you, because some of it is pretty ridiculous if you don't know anything about the sport. And so all those were, I had to list them all. I just could not just pick 1 or 2 or 3. I mean, yeah, some are better than others, but I thought they're all so great. There was even one in a more modern one that came out in 2007 that was how to hook up your home theater.
Right.
That although yes, it's all about the electronics, setting up your electronics or whatever. It's basically set up for Goofy to try and be able to watch, football, and the hilarity that goes through that, trying to set this modern technology of the time up and how funny that can be. And I think we've all, as people who've tried to set up home electronics,
yes,
can
definitely
appreciate what Goofy is going through in that film. But they're all great. Love them very much. I love that many of them are on Disney Plus and we can check out. And they're usually, somewhere between 6, 7, 8 minutes long. And they're just a lot of fun.
Right. Well, now that you say that, it kind of links in because my number 2 is a specific one of that, which is how to play football. The Goofy How to Play Football. And as you mentioned, I mean, it's just hilarious. I love that they have the names of the teams as Taxidermy Tech and Anthropology A+M or A&M. Right. But the other thing that I found interesting is they brought in sportscaster Frank Bull, who later became the sportscaster for the LA Rams during the 50s and the 60s. And so I thought that was kind of interesting that they actually, kind of like what we see in Cars, they brought a real person in to do the, the narration of
that
it.
kind of official sound, even though everything is silliness that's going out on the field.
Exactly. So I thought that was pretty cool. The other thing that was really cool with this one is its first audience was many of the American servicemen, and they wanted to kick off the series that way by showing it to them. So, because it came out in the 40s. So I thought that was really interesting as well.
Very cool. So. Yeah. So there you go. So my number 3 is Michelle's number 2, essentially, or at least a portion of it.
Right.
My number 2 was Michelle's number 3, or at least a portion of it. So that eliminates those. So that means we're back to our number 1s. And of course, we do Michelle number 1 because she'll have the best number 1. Mine will be fine, but Michelle's number 1 will be the best number 1 Disney sports movie and or short. Michelle, what is your number 1?
Well, I'm going to guess that we're tied on this one because you haven't mentioned it yet. I know it's one of your favorites as well, but it's Miracle.
Yes, that is my number 1.
All right. Yeah. Yay. So, I think this was one of the first time we both had number 1.
It's rare. We had when you wish upon a star the other day when we did songs that shout Disney or whatever, but it's rare that we're in sync with number 1.
Right. Exactly. So anyways, it's an intriguing story. Love it. I mean, like all of these sports stories, it's not really about the sports, right? It's about the people. And if you've ever had an opportunity, one, to see this film, but to see some of the other documentaries out there about, the coach and how he formulated a plan to really make sure this team could be successful, it's extremely interesting. He really did research how to make a team have the ability, the endurance, so that, you do see in this movie at times the issue of strength building. But the real story is very much into that, but we see it when he has them, the famous again and again, but there were also other touches of it where they're doing weights, and doing different types of
Mickey, would you quit falling over there?
Sorry, I need to stop
tackling
with my
Mickey.
hand.
Would you?
Yes. So it is really, one of the major aspects of it, and how he looked at formulating that team, not based on who was, considered the best player, but who he felt was essential for the team, and some of the other qualities that are important in making somebody being considered essential for the team. Love Kurt Russell in it. Think he's just phenomenal. I was totally bought into him being that coach and, what he brought to the role.
I love this film so very much. I think it's a fantastic film, and it's a very good, again, it's based on a true story. They do take some dramatic embellishment, on some situations here. But Herb Brooks, who was the coach that Kurt Russell plays, he did help them with the film. He did help them create this film. It's based on his book as well. Kurt Russell, as you said, to me, and it's hard to say, Kurt Russell has played many great roles. This may be, in my opinion, his best.
Right.
I love him as Herb Brooks. I think he does a really good job,
Yes.
a really understated job. He hits the points you need to. That speech before they face off
Right.
against the Soviets is so good. I nearly cut it out for this episode. In fact, I'm going to play it right now.
Great moments are born from great opportunity. And that's what you have here tonight, boys. That's what you've earned here tonight. One game. If we played them 10 times, they might win 9. But not this game. Not tonight. Tonight, we skate with them. Tonight, we stay with them. And we shut them down because we can. Tonight, we are the greatest hockey team in the world. You were born to be hockey players. Every one of you. And you were meant to be here tonight. This is your time. Their time is done. It's over. I'm sick and tired of hearing about what a great hockey team the Soviets have. Screw them. This is your time. Now go out there and take it.
That speech gets me fired up every time
Yes.
I hear it. The whole entire thing about this film, and you mentioned it a little bit, is the coaching job that he had to do. Now, the Soviet team is so good. They had won the 64, the 68, the 72, the 76 gold medals. No one could beat this team.
Right.
They were unbelievable. Brooks had to put together this group of, again, and this was, I talked about the ragtag group from the
Right.
Mighty Ducks. I mean, this is a little bit better than that. These guys were very good collegiate hockey players,
Right.
but they were from around the country. They're not professionals. They're amateurs. They were true amateurs. This is something that could not happen today.
Right.
Yes, I mean, we love seeing the best in the Olympics. So, seeing the professionals there, names, great or whatever.
Right.
But, seeing this group of collegiate no-names essentially come in and knock off this seasoned team that are essentially professionals. They still were able to maintain their amateur status because the Soviets would not pay them technically for playing hockey. They would pay them for being in the military,
Right.
but their job was to be the hockey
Right.
team. Within the military. So, they could play for a long time. They were this team that had formed together and was just dominant for
Right.
so many years. Herb Brooks does arguably the greatest coaching job in sports history
Right.
to get this team together. Even though that they had disputes between them, coming from different factions that,
Right.
would face off against one another in major collegiate hockey matches.
So you use faced off. Another
I'm
hockey
very punny
term.
today.
Yes.
I'm very punny.
Sorry, I don't mean to interrupt, but
Totally
I do.
unintentionally. Yes. Anyway, you keep throwing me a curveball and sending me off on a different direction. To draw them together, he basically made them, in some ways, really dislike him.
Right.
And that was not his nature. It's not what he did when he was a college coach. It's an incredible, look into an amazing coaching performance. And then if you just look at the film itself, the period that our country was in at the time, it was a very low period. We had gone through Watergate. We were struggling as a country. The Cold War was going on. We'd hit some recessions,
Right,
gas
inflation.
was, there was just all sorts of issues to go. And it was just this moment, this rallying moment that the country could get behind these kids and enjoy this time and kind of feel very American in that we always, whether we are or whether we aren't, we like to, feel like we're the underdogs at time, and this, was just this fantastic moment. And then the film itself, the cinematography, they bring in for the cast, they made sure that they could skate and play hockey first. Now, not all the hockey scenes are them out there playing. Of course, they have more professional players, semi-pro, whatever, for some of the scenes. But they wanted to be sure that when they wanted to get shots of this group out there playing hockey, they could actually do it. So that made the actual action look that much better. Then when you get to that game against the Soviets and the way they build on the excitement as you go through it and the action's happening. And then when spoiler alert for this game, when the U.S. goes ahead, with still like 10 minutes remaining, the way they build the tension of that, trying to play out that last 10 minutes, even though you know the outcome, and maybe you've seen this movie several times, it still is dramatic. They do it with, a lot of quick editing and cuts and close-ups and action. And it's really dramatic until the final buzzer goes off and the elation of it all. It's so well done. It is a fantastic film.
It really is. It really encompasses so many great qualities as a film. It's also really great how they incorporate the real soundtrack of the calling of that game, during the key moments, like you said, as it's building towards the end and of the outcome. And you're right, the cinematography is fabulous. Just little touches too that were kind of really cool to appreciate, like when they were actually going out onto the ice for that game, and the captain was like, he uses his stick to touch each member. Oh, why do I get emotional?
It's really a touching film. Yeah.
Right. But how he encourages each one as they're going out, and how they're touching all the, what do you call it? Western Union.
Yeah, the telegrams and notes that were sent, which is a real thing. If you go back and if you can find, there was I think it was HBO had a documentary where they actually talked to a lot of players, and that was discussed within that as appreciation for this team grew, they were flooded with telegrams and letters and notes of appreciation, and they would post them on the wall and they would tap them before they would go out to the ice. Amazing.
Yeah. I mean, it really showed for them, I'm sure, that it just secured that, they were playing for their country. And like you alluded to a little earlier in your notes about this, is that, they did come from different teams that would, be rivals in a lot of senses. And, they each were, stars in their own collegiate sports, that they were, maybe not as team associated, coming together with these people that they would normally be, against. And this really helped keep solidifying that you are on that team, you are playing for your country.
So it's just it's really, really good. And it will, again, Remember the Titans is up there with this film for me personally. But they're just, and I just kind of have this thing with the Miracle on Ice. I've said it back when I was doing sports radio, and I would do one of those mail-in topics that you did when you didn't really want to do much, was like to get a bunch of callers in, and I would do the, if you could go back, you had a time machine, you can go back and relive any sports moment in history, what would it be? And this was always mine. I would love to be there in the crowd for the 1980 game against the Soviets, which wasn't the gold medal game, by the way, but it was the important game. That, to relive that energy, that excitement from the crowd, that, that game that took place within the U.S. at Lake Placid, that this would be so I have this tie in with it already. And then, learning more about it and the job that Herb Brooks did to bring this team together. Again, watch this film. If you can find the documentary on HBO, it's really, really well done. And you get the actual voices of many of the players that he coached as well. And then if you can ever find, also there's an HBO doc. I think it's HBO again. I'm forgive me if I'm naming the wrong network here. That they did a documentary actually from the other side,
right?
Which was the Soviet side and all the players and what they went through, and that's interesting as well because they had to see things from being this dominant team and suddenly being upended by this upstart U.S. team. They're the country's rivals.
Yes.
There was a lot of stuff with that as well. So I would highly suggest you watching all three of those things if you can find the other two. Definitely. But Miracle's right there in Disney Plus. Definitely check it out.
Yeah. I concur.
So those are our 5 favorites. We also got some listener input. Not a lot, but we got some, and there are some really good ones out there. So want to get to a few of those. I'll start with Dillo's Diz, who hit us up on Twitter. You can find them at Dillo's Diz. And they wrote, Goofy, the art of skiing, the end. And we then pointed out that we were betting on Dillo's Diz and or I'm sure who made this answer, Frank Cardillo, naming a Goofy short,
right?
Because Frank is a huge Goofy fan. I think he worked very closely with Goofy at times, as a matter of fact. We pointed out that we would get one of those. He responded, it's true, but now I'm also thinking about Casey at the Bat, which is another classic Disney short that's really, really well done as well. So thank you, Dillo's Diz, and thank you, Frank Cardillo, for chiming in with that. Tombstone Josh also hit us up on Twitter. You can find him at Tombstone Josh. He said The Big Green, which is kind of it's like Mighty Ducks with soccer.
Right.
It's kind of a cute movie. The Mighty Ducks, you like that as well. Cool Runnings, which is another great about the, it's kind of a, based on the Jamaican bobsled team, not really the story, but it's based on the Jamaican bobsled team, which is interesting. He said those all come to mind first. Safety on Disney Plus was also very good. He agrees with Michelle there, and he likes Invincible as well. He said I also like that a bit. That's the story of kind of just a guy who played street football, played a little high school or whatever, and then an open tryout with the Philadelphia Eagles and made them as a special teams member. So that's actually another great story as well. Yeah. Keenan from Part of Our Word podcast hit us up on Facebook and said, we just watched Cool Runnings the other night. Great flick. Agree with that. Miracle, he mentions. Remember the Titans. He says those are up there among their more serious Disney sports films, and the Mighty Ducks tops the lighthearted ones. So thank you, Keenan.
Yes.
Appreciate that. Jocelyn hit us up on Twitter. You can find her at Disney Gratitude 1. Drop the E, add a 1. She said Mighty Ducks all the way. Yes, agree with that. And finally, Doug hit us up on Facebook and said, I know it's cheesy, but I remember loving Angels in the Outfield a lot when I was young. The Rookie is another great baseball film by Disney. Can't go wrong with Dennis Quaid. That's another great one. Nearly made my list. Story of a high school baseball coach who makes a deal. His team sees him throw and knows he can throw the ball really, really well as a pitcher. And they made a deal with him, like, if we win this game or this championship, then you are going to go try out as a major league pitcher. And lo and behold, the story happens. Definitely check that one out if you haven't seen it.
It's good.
That's our listener input. Do you have any honorable mentions you'd like to add in there as well, Michelle?
Yeah, I did. I had McFarlane USA as an honorable mention. And then some of the other ones that they mentioned, some of our listeners mentioned, The Rookie and Angels in the Outfield, all great ones as well. Yeah. What about you? Honorable mentions?
I had, like I said, McFarlane USA, which will be available. It's not on Disney Plus yet, but it's going to be available in October of this year. But if you haven't checked it out, but it's an interesting story about a cross-country team in kind of Central California. The coach bringing them together, and they're and they're having a tough time. Most of them are, they're working the fields out there and trying to go to school, trying to be a part of this team, getting them together. And it's a really heartwarming story. And one we caught, I think it was on a ship somewhere. It was a
non-Disney ship, but they had it on their movie list.
And we fell in love with it. Yes. It's a really great film. And then just a couple silly movies. A classic one, The Love Bug, which is all about Herbie, which is,
true.
It's a racing movie. Yeah. It's just kind of a funny, silly, classic movie.
Right.
And then another one from, I want to say it's the 70s, but just silly, but I loved it as a kid, is Gus, the story of the field goal kicking donkey.
All right.
It's silly and ridiculous and just kind of fun.
Right.
Don Knotts is in it. It's just kind of this silly little movie,
Right.
but I loved it. I fell in love with it when I was a kid.
Yeah.
And so that's why I wanted to put it on my list.
You didn't have Air Bud.
I did not have Air Bud. I know a lot of people love Air Bud.
Yeah.
I never got into the Air Bud thing. I got into the Gus thing, apparently.
Yes.
So,
I thought the first Air Bud
yeah.
was kind of cute. Yeah. But yeah.
Golden
Anyways.
retriever that can do sports.
I know.
What's
Hey.
better than that?
Right?
Honestly. So.
So great list from our listeners.
Yes, thanks to all our listeners, and I hope you enjoyed looking at this peek of sports, and I hope you're ready for the super game that's coming up. Be sure and get that bowl of chips ready to go. And remember, Disney is so tied in, and there is a lot of the best of Disney sports. Again, thanks to all our listeners who chimed in with some great films and always help us out so much in all these different topics. If you want to chime in about your favorite Disney sports movies or shorts, or maybe this is some TV shows that are, episodes that you enjoy that are kind of wrapped around the sports world, we'd love to hear them. Please send them to us and we'll mention them on an upcoming show.
Yeah, good idea.
Yeah. So let's get to our Disney stories of the week. I do have a few for you this week. I'm going to start with, if you think that Disneyland Annual Pass you had when the parks closed is now useless, well, we have some somewhat good news for you. This from the Disneyland website. They said, "Thank you for your loyalty and for having been a Disneyland Resort Annual Pass holder during this unprecedented time of our Disney parks closure. To show our appreciation until new membership offerings are announced, we thought a couple of perks and a new title was in order. Pass holders who held active passports as of March 14th, 2020 are now Disneyland Resort Legacy Pass holders."
Ooh.
Yeah, so you kind of have a new title.
Ooh, nice.
Yes. And they say for a limited time, Legacy Pass holders will be able to save 30% on select merchandise at select Disney downtown Disney District and Buena Vista Street locations. That offer is valid from Monday through Thursday, beginning on January. Well, it's already started. It started on January 18th and it runs through February 25th of 2021. Once that offer is ended, annual pass holders who held active passports as of that date, March 14th, 2020, will continue to receive applicable discounts based on their passport types on merchandise and food and beverages at select downtown Disney District and Buena Vista Street locations until the new membership offerings are announced. And they say that's just for starters. They're working on adding more magic during this limited time. So they say get ready to be surprised, delighted, and most of all celebrated, because that's what being a Disneyland Resort Legacy Pass holder is all about. So sounds
cool.
like, look, we discussed it already in other episodes that unfortunately this is what Disneyland had to do with APs for a time being, and it looks like they're going to reevaluate it with these membership offerings and do something different. But at least they're trying to do something to celebrate if you would have had an annual pass, to give you a little something, even though you're getting a refund now off of that. You're not paying for it anymore if you're on the installment plan or whatever the case may be. So they're trying to do something until they can get this plan in place, get the parks reopened. So at least they're doing a little something.
Yeah, no, I think it's great that they're doing recognition of having had that annual pass. And yeah, I think you've said it all. I mean, they had to do something and plan for when they do reopen how to really manage the capacity limitations that are going to be put in place. So it's good that they did put some things into effect, and sounds like they're going to continue to do some magic.
Right. And we're proud to be known as Disneyland Legacy Annual Pass holders. Yes. So moving on, if you're looking for a way to jazz up your next trip to the Walt Disney World Resort, like I said before, not jazz hands, actual jazz, you'll want to listen to this next story. This straight from the Disney Parks blog, beginning in February. So beginning tomorrow, as of when we're recording this, the Walt Disney World Resort will unveil several several new experiences inviting you to celebrate soulfully at the most magical place on earth. Coinciding with the and extending beyond February's Black History Month, these offerings will honor Black heritage and culture through music, food, and more. So here's what they're going to be offering. First is the Soul of Jazz, an American adventure, will debut this Monday, February 1st, so tomorrow, at Epcot and continue beyond the end of the month inside the American Adventure, featuring Joe Gardner, who we just mentioned from the movie.
Right.
Disney Pixar movie Soul. This new exhibit showcases historic artifacts of famous jazz musicians, inviting you on a musical tour of the United States to learn more about this colorful and inspiring and constantly evolving genre of music. That's kind of cool.
That
I'm
is
looking
very
forward
cool.
to when we get out there in a couple weeks checking that out. Yeah,
definitely.
for sure. Also, they'll be having Celebrate Soulfully at Disney Springs, which brings together several new offerings debuting in February at the Walt Disney World Shopping, Dining, and Entertainment District with jazz-inspired performances, new art displays, special food menus, and more. They say there's something for everyone to enjoy. So that's kind of cool as well.
Yeah. I'm loving this. I'm loving this celebration.
Yeah. So they say feature will be 4 new art displays inspired by Disney and Pixar's Soul, created by emerging Black artists B. Harris, Bianca Pastel, Arrington Porter, and Corey Van Loo. Originally developed in collaboration with Disney and Pixar as part of a Hue Unlimited collection of wearable art, the work reflects each artist's interpretation of the film. So that's kind of cool too.
Yeah, I love it.
Yeah.
Might have to bring out our pocketbook.
Always have to bring out our pocketbook with Disney. Always. It never fails.
Sounds
It
amazing.
Never fails. Yeah. Also, 3 evenings per week, Motown Mondays, Jazz Thursdays, and Smooth Sundays. Musicians will perform throughout Disney Springs, playing tunes sure to stir your soul. In addition, select dining locations will feature special menu items, including Amorette's Patisserie, offering treats inspired by soul, and Walt Disney's Animation Studios' The Princess and the Frog. Also at Disney Springs, several retail locations will spotlight products from Black designers, artists, and visionaries.
Well, that's cool. I mean, I like that they are doing some more things at Disney Springs, especially since the parks do close a little earlier, give you some other options of fun things to do out in that location.
Things to look forward to, especially these are all midweek things. They're,
right.
Except for Sundays, the Smooth Sundays, which is cool. It's kind of like a brunch thing. I wonder if they're having some brunch things along with, because we used to go to jazz brunches every once in a while, which were really fun.
Yeah.
A lot of fun. So I wonder if that has something to do with it. But anyway.
Would make sense.
I digress. I don't know that that's the case. I was just wondering out loud. And also, as part of their Movies Under the Stars program, select Disney Resort hotels throughout the month of February will show films celebrating Black culture, such as The Princess and the Frog. These complimentary movie screenings are available to guests of Disney Resort hotels, offering relaxing evening entertainment for the whole family in a serene outdoor setting. So those are always fun too.
Yeah, I was just going to say, I'm looking forward to those as well, at least catching maybe one or two. We've always enjoyed them. It's just a kind of cool thing. And the thing is, not many people, even prior to COVID, a lot of people didn't, take that opportunity. I mean, I know right now they're not doing like the campfire part of it, but it is fun thing to do, and they do have at each location that does have it, which is most of the resorts, is that they have a nice setup for it. So if you're staying and you haven't done that, you might want to give it a try.
Yeah, especially with the parks closing earlier.
Right.
Maybe one night go look at the schedule, find a movie that tickles your fancy, and go out there and check it out for a different type of Disney experience.
Right.
For sure. So moving on, Disney announced this week that they are reimagining a classic attraction. This stirred up a lot of things on social media. Actually, I was a little surprised that it was mostly favorable because, when they stir things up at Disney, it's usually a both sides. Sometimes it's fairly negative, and sometimes, a lot of times, it's kind of both sides of the sword. This one was taken in pretty favorably. So this again from the Disney Parks blog. Here's what they had to say. At Disney Parks, we continue to look for ways to enhance classic attractions and elevate the experience for all of our guests. We're excited to share that we are building on the story of the Jungle Cruise at both Disneyland Park at the Disneyland Resort and Magic Kingdom Park at Walt Disney World Resort to include new adventures that stay true to the experience everyone knows and loves, more humor, wildlife, and skipper heart, and also reflect the value and diversity of the world around us. So it's really cool stuff.
That is cool. Now it makes sense why you're wearing that T-shirt.
That is why I'm wearing my
'Cause I was
Jungle
like,
Cruise
why
T-shirt.
is he wearing
That
that
has not
today?
sports.
But I know. It's like, okay, I guess he just felt like wearing it. It's a nice color. It looks
Yes.
good on you. But no, it makes sense.
It all ties in now
right,
at the end.
Right. And, I mean, I get why sometimes people feel like, oh, there's a classic being tinkered on. But actually, when the parks first opened in Disneyland 65 plus years ago, it was really more to try to be kind of like a real adventure type thing and be more realistic. The comedy aspect of it was added later. So the continuation of at least keeping the comedy part, which I think people love, and the skippers and things like that makes sense, and, make it something that is, like you said, inclusive for everybody in a fun way.
Well, let's face it. I mean, what do we love about the Jungle Cruise now? Why do we keep going back to it? It's because the skippers are great.
Right.
And, a lot of times you hear the same joke over and over again. Michelle will still laugh at every single one of them. She is the guest that they want aboard every trip. But also sometimes you get some new ones, some fresh ones that really will tickle your fancy. And I think that's really fun. And so, it's interesting that what they're doing is going to be revolving around those skippers, which I appreciate very much. And I think that's why so many people were on the favorable side of this, because they know that's what makes this attraction so much better. So that, and of course, there needed to be some diversity changes within the attractions for some outdated stuff that was out there within it. So this was a quote from Kevin Lively, who is a Disney Imagineer and a former Jungle Cruise skipper, as a matter of fact. He talked about the changes. He said, quote, "As a part of this story update, we'll get to follow a skipper and his passengers as their journey goes awry." That's right. For the first time ever, the skipper role will not only be that of a live, experienced, and witty guide, but also represented by a show figure within the attraction itself. In fact, the expedition will be up a tree, literally, after their sunken boat splits apart and chimps board the wreckage with monkey business ensuing, end quote.
Ooh.
So I can't wait to see how this story plays out once we actually can get out there and check it all out. Once this happens, obviously Disneyland Resort's not open right now. We don't know. I would assume they're currently working on it there.
Right. Makes sense.
There was no notification yet as to when they'll be closing for the renovations at the Walt Disney World Resort. It's currently, at least I checked yesterday, and the attraction was still open. And we also don't know when it will eventually reopen with the new reimagined story, but I'm sure they'll fill us in as things go along. But just cool stuff.
Yeah,
I like the concept.
Right, I do too, and it's always fun to have something new and exciting to experience when you're out at the Disney parks.
Mm-hmm. So, anything about the skippers, because we're all about the skippers.
Yes.
And the corny humor. We think it's great, and Michelle will laugh at every one of their jokes. So.
They're good. Their deliveries, that's the key, that they can nail the delivery of them.
For sure. They are the key. Just the cast members are always the key to the magic at the Disney parks, especially the skippers aboard the Jungle Cruise. They are the key to the magic of the Jungle Cruise for sure. So that's it for the Disney stories of the week. However, we never leave you without some sort of tip that might help you on your next vacation. And we always start with Michelle. One, because she has the very best lists. She's gorgeous. She works very hard. She's very smart, but she also has the very best tips. So let's get to it. Here is Michelle's tip of the week.
Well, thank you. You're ever so kind, honey. So my tip relates to parking.
Oh, okay.
And if you are going to a Walt Disney World park or a resort, and you have an electric car that you need to charge, you probably, some of you may already know this, but they do have actual outlets that you can charge your car while you're visiting. And if you sign up for the newsletter, we'll give you details of where each of these are located, But anyways, anybody can access them. They do work on a first come, first serve basis. When you go into the parks, you can just ask for directions of where to find those. But my tip actually talks a little bit about preparation. But first of all, just want to let you know, the cost is 35 cents per kilowatt hour. A minimum of $1.50 is what they want you to spend there. But actually, they work through this company called ChargePoint, and it will actually ping you when your car is ready. You don't have to move it immediately or anything like that, but at least you'll get that notification. But my tip is on how to save time. Now, we all know when you get to the park or the resorts, you want to start your fun. You don't want anything to get in the way of delaying that. And so what you can do to help save time if you're planning to use one of these parking spots is you can actually go and download the app, the ChargePoint app, and actually do a prepayment card. And so when you get there, you just use your phone to access that account and move on your way quickly.
Great. That's awesome. I mean, especially with the proliferation of electric cars, many more people have those electric cars now. And I think I read today somewhere, and it was just the headline, so please bear with me here because I don't know the real story, but something along the lines that GM is saying by like 2039, they're going to be
35, I thought.
Yeah, something like that. They're going to be completely doing electric cars, and that's it.
Right.
So, I mean, obviously there's going to be more out there on the market coming soon, and the prices may come down. So, more the reason why you should need to know these things if an electric car is in your future.
Right. And, you can...
Or your present.
Right. The app is really good also to give you information throughout, not just at Disney World, but where you can find locations of their car parking, electronic car parking charge stations. And, we're not here to try to sponsor them, but I do want you to know how to get to that app to make your trip go quickly. It is what Disney is using. But yeah, it's something that you can have a consideration of. You may want to research if the particular car you have may need a special attachment. I think I've read in some place, but I don't know for sure of this, but like if you do have a Tesla, you might need a special adapter. So again, preparation before you travel is what's going to really important. Save your time.
Do your homework.
Right. And so, get prepared and be able to take care of that quickly and move on to having fun at the parks.
Very nice. Michelle's tip. Always the best tip. My tip this week, since we were talking about sports today, I thought we'd look into some of the many different possibilities for your next vacation out at the Walt Disney World Resort if you want to do a little sports and recreation while you're out there, because obviously we know you can go to the parks and have a great time out there. There's lots of great restaurants. The resorts are fantastic, but there are a lot of different possibilities if you want to get a little sports and recreation in while you're on your vacation. Of course, pretty much every Disney resort has a fitness center. They all have at least one pool, I believe. Some have multiples that you can go out there and get a good swim in.
Sure.
There are 4 professional level golf courses out there. So if you want to get a little golf in on your vacation, many people like to have a little golf during their vacations while they're out there. Or maybe the family goes to the park, dad goes and plays golf. Dad and mom go out and play golf. Mom goes out and plays golf and lets dad go take the kids. Whatever it is, you can do that. There's also a pair of miniature golf courses, for families, date night, whatever you want to do. And again, some of these aren't necessarily open right as we speak because of the times, but when things are going normally, check your listings, find out what's open and see if you can.
Yeah, some things are.
Yeah, some of these are. You can even play foot golf.
I was going to wonder if you were going to include that, if you knew about that.
Yeah, there's a 9-hole golf course that uses basically a soccer ball, and they have giant holes that fit the soccer ball in. And so if you're not, skilled at playing golf, or maybe the kids want to go out and do this, you can just kick the ball down the course and try and get your score as low as possible. Want to shoot some hoops? Well, there are courts that can be found at multiple resorts out there. And you can even, if you don't want to bring a basketball with you on the plane or whatever, you can even pick one up while you're out there. All you need is your resort ID, and they'll give you a basketball to go shoot around while you're there. Several resorts have tennis courts and volleyball courts. And again, they'll help you with equipment there if need be, or you can bring your own. You can also, of course, we've talked about this before, go on a fishing excursion at many of the resorts that have, some of the major waterways around them. You can be on a boat, or I think it was at the Port Orleans Resort, you can even just do it right off the pier there and do some fishing as well. At Fort Wilderness, you can channel your inner Merida, Robin Hood, or Hawkeye and do a little archery while you're there. You can also do a little horseback riding there if you want. There's you can rent kayaks or canoes while you're out there. Once Typhoon Lagoon reopens, you might want to take a crack at learning how to surf. They have that there, or they also have some open time where you can go out and do some surfing while you're there. There's just so much to do. I mean, I'm not even going through everything that there is sports and recreation wise. Some resorts have like foosball tables and lawn bowling and all sorts of other things you can do as well.
Giant Connect Fours.
Yes, they do have giant Connect Fours, which is kind of fun as well. If you want to explore all Walt Disney World Resort has to offer, just go to disneyworld.disney.go.com/recreation. They're all listed there. You can see what's available currently, what's possibly available at other times. And you can also find some of these are free. Many of these have an additional cost involved with them, so you can find out how much they cost as well, set up reservations if you want to do one, all through that website. But, just another way to kind of enhance your next vacation, especially if you go regularly and are looking for different things to do while you're taking a trip.
Right. And just, like sometimes not everybody likes to be in the park the whole time or, for an extended time. Kids love the pools. Some adults love the pools too. And, or like you're saying, playing golf or some of these other sports can be a real nice diversion as well.
Yep, for sure. So
great tip.
Thank you very much. Appreciate that. So that's it for this week. Next week, well, it's February, as I mentioned earlier, and that means we're getting close to Valentine's Day. So to get us ready for the romantic holiday, we're going to do another 5 favorite list. We're getting ready for our vacation coming up soon here. We don't have a lot of time for Michelle to do another deep dive into the research, unfortunately, right now, because there's a lot, believe me. There's some things that we haven't mentioned yet that are maybe coming up that we may be getting into eventually here. There's a lot of stuff going on right now, so it's taking up a lot of our time. So we're going to be doing a few lists over the next few weeks. But this next one coming up is going to be all about the expression of love in Disney films. It's going to be our 5 favorite Disney romantic moments.
I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah, and of course, we'll want you to take a part in that as well. We appreciate that you joined us today. In the future, you can find us most everywhere you get podcasts. However, the very best place to find us is on our own website, HyperionAdventuresPodcast.com. And while you're there,
please sign up for the newsletter. And this week, you'll get some extra information that will not be available for others.
There's almost always some little tidbit of extra information out there you can find on the newsletter. It's just kind of another way to be in the Hyperion Adventures podcast. Another way to connect with us is out on social media. A lot of fun on social media with a lot of you out there. If you want to find us there, we're on Twitter at Hyperion Podcast, Facebook, Instagram, and Pinterest at Hyperion Adventures Podcast. We do have a YouTube channel, just mostly putting out some of these episodes out there on YouTube. However, when we do our trip coming up here soon, there may be a couple extra things that we put out there as well, revolving around our trip to the Walt Disney World Resort. And if you want to find us there, just do a search for Hyperion Adventures Podcast, hit subscribe, and you'll know whenever we have a new video. And if you ever want to connect with us for any reason, you can hit us up at our Gmail account, HyperionAdventuresPodcast@gmail.com.
Right. We love hearing from you and answering questions and just having conversations with you. And please know that we never share your email address, whether it's for the newsletter or that you do write to us. We don't share that information with anybody.
Nope, just for us to be able to connect with you in any way that you want. It could be limited. It could be more expansive. Whatever you want, we're here for you. That's what we want to be week in and week out, day in and day out, because we appreciate you so very much. And thank you for listening to another episode of the Hyperion Adventures Podcast. We look forward to sharing some time with you again next week. Until that time, I'm Tom.
I'm Michelle.
And we hope that you have a magical week.
Bye.